The Diamond Drive Season 4 continuing this time all the way from upside down land in Australia. Bathurst, Mount Panorama, round number 3 in the championship, marking the halfway point, almost halfway there, and a special 90-minute midway point race. Hello, everybody. As always, I'm Jesse Lee, joined by Nate and Jake, the Bossmeister Boswell, on the cameras tonight. Before we can get into our 90-minute feature, of course, we do have the matter of qualifying. 15 cars on the track so far tonight. And for the second week in a row, Nate, first of all, welcome in. Some of our drivers having issues getting onto the track tonight.
Yeah, a few of the familiar faces actually not with us tonight, which is a little bit of a shame, but I'd say there was enough of the new faces to counteract that. So I'm looking forward to having a more unpredictable race than what we've seen in previous events, Jesse.
And of course, the 90-minute race was voted on this week. We knew that we were going to have a smaller turnout. We decided that it would be wise to put it in the driver's hands. We often do that here at RCI, and we allowed them to vote. Tom Watts, in fact, allowed them to vote on whether they would want two small sprint races, a regular 60-minute round or the full 90. And after several days of voting, nearly everybody did. In fact, it was quite clear to us that they still wanted to run the 90-minute variant. Nate, what does that tell you about the drivers in this race today, that they wanted to do the extra 30 here?
Well, a lot of things that I can't say on air for legal reasons, Jesse. My lawyer will be in touch. But no, whether they love Bathurst, whether they hate it, it's a challenging track and it's so rewarding to get right. 90 minutes for me, probably not. I mean, we did give the drivers the option for two 30-minute sprints, which definitely sounds like it would have
I thought that was
going
to win. I'm just going to say, and it didn't.
Definitely a lot more action there, but no, I guess a couple of drivers, well, I say a couple, like you said, Jesse, we put the vote to them and they voted for it. But wanting the 90-minute race purely as it's the special one, it's the halfway point of the season.
Well, I gotta say, I was impressed that the majority of the drivers wanted to run the race in a 90-minute format. I expected them to want to go to the sprint format, considering it is Bathurst. What it tells me is everybody here, well, the majority anyway, I will say, wanted to run this as a 90-minute race, test their mettle, and tonight they're certainly going to get that. I was just reminded that the vote ended in favor of the sprint race, but in my opinion, the stewards' votes didn't count, and I only really counted the drivers, and the definitely drivers were fairly unanimous in that decision for the 90. Well, practice is over, and before we get to the race, obviously we have qualifying. One of the hardest places to lay a really good quali lap is Mount Panorama. What do we expect to see out of the quali session here today?
Well, lots of drivers on the absolute limit. Definitely going to see cars looking a little bit sorry for himself, coming through the mountain, a couple of accidents across Skyline. What else are we expecting to see? Well, expecting to see Rose out in front, as has been the case all season, Jesse. So obviously no change there. But yeah, the hardest part for these drivers tonight will be getting down the mountain. Up, probably not so much of a challenge, only a couple of corners, but they are good faith corners, I like to call them, where you really have to just chuck the car in and hope that you've nailed the setup enough that the car will stick. But it'll be coming down the mountain where it's so easy to just sort of glance the barriers and, well, make a mess of your qualifying run.
Yeah, it sure will. What do I expect out of this qualifying run? Well, I expect Anor Rose to qualify on pole, as they have done, well, every round, basically. But on top of that, I expect to see a couple of laps impeded by cars stranded over the top of the mountain, whether that be in the McPhillamy Park or the Skyline, wherever it might be. That is certainly something I expect. And nearly half the cars, actually just about that, in fact, out of the pit lane here immediately trying to find clean air. They won't do that when they group up quite like that. And we already had our first spinner return to the pit lane. Was that Fox in the 202? Unclear, but one car already having a little bit of a spin in between turns 1 and 2, and there's the 828 as well. It's almost as if we've been to Bathurst a few times.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure where or when, Jesse, but I think we definitely might have been here a couple times before. But yeah, based on the fact that the 202 is here on screen now and the 828 is just behind, I would say that you were correct in your guesstimation there, Jesse, that the first spinner was the 202. But yeah, cold tires, tricky outlap. We've got a yellow flag on the mountain, which looked like the 888 of Sarah Johnson. So yeah, qualifying, obviously everyone's running low fuel, everyone's giving it, 105%. So I wouldn't imagine we'll see this many mistakes in the race as we see. Oh, Santos hard into the wall there. That, well, going to be feeling that one in the morning. So that's what happened here. So looks like just a little bit squirrely coming over the top, a little bit late, and it just carries too much speed and just, well, spares box dipper. That car won't be good for much more than spares after that.
It sure will. The 11 also had an issue. I think that was coming into Forest Elbow having an issue as well. So it doesn't matter what series you're in. This is what happens when you do qualifying on the mountain, because you're chasing the unicorn, aren't you? You're chasing that magical, fantastic lap and be damned anything else. And you get into that. And of course, you go out on cold tires in these conditions. It's actually sort of warm as well, 25 degrees C, but the track is optimum. You can get yourself into trouble really quickly. Certainly, I don't think I've ever had, myself personally, a clean quali session around here without parking it in a few walls, simply because you are going for the unicorn lap. You're going for the one fast one that matters. Doesn't matter how many times you hit the wall, Nate, as long as one of the laps is good.
Yeah, that's gonna be our recurring theme this season, isn't it? You only need the one lap to count. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty famous for catching the wall just there, which then unsettles me all the way along here, and then I normally catch the wall on the inside there and end up building sandcastles in the gravel trap just over there. This part as well, nobody in the Porsche today, actually. Well, obviously not seen one for the whole season, but Porsche over there, for me at least, not a fun time. I've done it a handful of times. The rear engine sort of system for that corner not working well for me, as we see Sasha getting a little bit of a slide on coming around the Forest Elbow there, but keeping it all straight and narrow now for the long run down the back straight. And we see Anal Rose on the tail of Sasha there, so hopefully Rose won't have her lap impeded, but that's the risk you run when you all sort of run out in qualifying together.
And of course, Death, I think, was one of the first cars, if not the first car, out on track. And Rose has caught that driver. And is this what I think is going on? Yes, indeed, it was. Sasha Death going ahead and moving out of the way for Anor Rose. We should get our first demonstration time, a casual 201.237 out of the Queen's Design 56.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the benchmark already, really, isn't it? I mean, we saw the practice times briefly. Rose was sort of 2 seconds ahead of everyone. Rose is 2 seconds ahead now. Based on, the previous sessions, previous races, we have no reason to doubt that will change. But we're hoping that someone just pulls out that unicorn lap, Jesse, and can actually topple Rose off of pole position.
First couple of times have come in. Rose P1, Dove, Death, and Brady, the top 4 in Pro. O'Brien did hold the pole position for the second class, but not anymore. April's Carlsvard, the GTWR driver, a 206, good enough for provisional until Eris ran that lap there. That was well and truly ahead of the group. And now Rain has bettered that lap, a 204.980, good enough for 4th overall and provisional pole in the second class. With all the calamity we saw there on the first couple of attempts of an outlap, we got most of the cars putting in a valid time.
Yeah, which is, well, I wouldn't say it's surprising, but on almost the first time of asking for the majority of the field, I mean, I know for a fact that I can't go out and put a lap straight in here at Bathurst. I always have a couple of chats with the wall, just see how they're doing. It's been a while, a little catch up before I eventually string one together for a time that would be well off the back of the races here. But yeah, I mean, what's that? Most of the grid were laps in, only a couple of cars left to put their laps through, and the grid's looking a little bit sort of all over the place, for lack of a better word, Jesse.
Yeah, it really is. They're spread out. The most impressive thing is Fox has set a lap only 1.5 seconds off of Rose's time, but everybody fairly spread out. That except sixth and seventh place, really. Oh, and eighth and ninth are eighth, ninth, and 10th really are all quite close to one another. Sarah O'Brien was one of the first cars to set a lap in the second class. What will this lap be? Hopefully an improvement, and is a 207.085. Bumps him up to P10 for the moment. Eris has brought that car into the pit lane for right now. One of only two, with Hamish in the lane as well. Everybody else still trying to improve before they likely make their adjustments. April Carlsvard, P9 in the 69, one of the GTWR cars, up to P8, a 205.910. Nice improvement. Fox with a improvement as well, a 202.042, gets them within 8/10 of Anal Rose up front.
Yeah, so that's impressive. So hopefully, I've nothing against Rose. We always talk to them, we chat with them. But it would just be nice if somebody else had a chance at pole position just once. Just take your foot off the gas, Rose. Just slow it down. Let the other racers enjoy pole position just once this season.
Rose, inevitably, when you come in here to beat Nate up for the comment he just made, just know that I didn't say anything.
You thought it. I read your mind, Jesse. That's we're that in sync that I know what you're thinking, and because I know you don't want to say it out loud, I've said it for you. So everything I just said was on behalf of Jesse. If anybody wants to take notes, write that down.
Wow, we're playing it like that today. All right.
I'm throwing you under the bus, buddy.
Pineapple in P9, a 206.550 for Sarah Johnson. A nice improvement. Everybody getting their eye in right now. By the way, elephant in the room, last week, as Sarah Dove's going to come to the line, I accidentally confused two idioms, and I would like to make amends for that. An improvement for Sarah Dove, a 2.520. I confused get your eye in with wind your neck in last week, and I just want to bring up the fact that I thought about that all night. Jake Boswell, you can't hear him, but he just laughed at me there. But I thought about that all night last Wednesday. I was like, what did I confuse that with? That's what I confused that with. Get your eye in and wind your neck in. Two different things. One means shut up. The other means, focus up. And I confused the two, to the amusement of everybody in this box today. Paula Brady coming to the line. A nice improvement as well. P6, a 5.225 for the Canadian.
Yeah, so times are tumbling, which is, well, it's always a good sign, but if everybody sort of to the back and to the middle of the field are getting quicker, chances are those at the front are also getting quicker. So Rose, on an invalid lap, I think, had an issue coming down the mountain and did return to the pits. So outlap for them now before another flying lap. We'll have to see if this is an improvement. Well, obviously we won't see it right now because, as I mentioned, outlap, but coming round. So Rose starting a lap now. We'll have to wait and see. We've got, just about 2 minutes to wait and find out. In the meantime, everyone will be hoping that they can go quicker. Next driver to set a valid lap will be the 888 here of Sarah Johnson. See where this can bring them up. Currently sits 9th, but hopefully in one more corner's time, they will bring themselves up a couple of places.
Everybody pushing for the last little bit of time, and another addition for Johnson there, a 6.470 for Pineapple as they continue to work the track. The tolerances here are so much smaller than they may appear on camera. I implore all of you, try and do a quali session around Mount Panorama in a GT3 car. It's not the hardest thing you'll do or the hardest driving, but it's mentally taxing. The thought of how close the walls are if you mess it up, the room for error is almost not around half of this racetrack. Paula saw something they didn't see, or they didn't like rather, and they exit the track there through the chase. But your tolerances for a mistake are so very minimal here that that's what creates the chipping away at it mentality. Normally, in a quali session, you see rather large jumps followed by tiny jumps. Here, I've always noticed you pretty much have what you have when you run around here based on how your car's set up, but you can minutely change the way you drive around here and gain little bits of time. You've seen that in this session as well.
Yeah, I think for me personally, Jesse, I don't know if you're the same. One of the places where I take it easy and slowly build myself up is coming up the mountain. I always take it pretty cautiously through there for the first few laps, and then ever so slightly just try and build the speed and go a little bit quicker and a little bit quicker. Because if you just try and attack it full speed first time, chances are you're going to have a real bad time.
Yeah, it can be. I've certainly had it go wrong for me more than a few times. I've been really close to setting really nice laps around here, and just messing up one corner over the top of the mountain can spell disaster. Even worse, messing up the chase. The chase is such a finicky corner. You can really only take it one of a couple of ways. And if you mess it up, you can lose tenths there and completely ruin a lap that was otherwise really quick. As Johnson continues to improve, a 5.982, and that will prompt a revisit to the garage for the 888. Rain leads the second class right now, also in the garage, with Eris second and April Carlsvard in third. Nicole Fox looking for another improvement. It's been the closest challenger for Rose today. Will that continue? Not on that occasion. Several tenths off.
I think one of the hardest parts about Bathurst, not only are the walls quite close, which is something you can overcome quite easily, it's how bumpy and uneven the track is. It's very, very easy to lock a wheel up and either put yourself into the wall or offline, which, as you mentioned, Jesse, will cost you tenths over a lap. Also, over the course of a race distance, will obviously damage the tire. So, yeah, Bathurst being tricky because of the narrow walls, also because of how just not flat it is. I mean, you can see on this shot here, there's rises and falls, especially again going over the mountain and coming down it. Obviously, as the track falls away from you, it's very easy to raise one of the front wheels and then lock it as it comes back down to the ground, which will then push you wide. And I found myself a few times in the wall as a result of that. I don't know about you, Jesse, but yeah, it's all about picking the right spot to brake so you can get the car slowed down enough so when you hit these peaks and these uneven surfaces that you can release the brake enough that you don't lock the wheel while still slowing the car down for the corner. I think that's one of the key points to a quick lap is going slow to go fast.
Yeah, it's that old adage that actually is really true. For me, my number one public enemy number one around here is the curbs. When I first arrived at Bathurst for the first time, I underestimated the curbs, and you really can't ride too many of them around here. They're way too big, or they're placed awkwardly. They're off camber, so you got to stay off of them, especially in this car in particular. Oh, as the 11 of Charlotte Robertson's had another spin. Where is this? Oh, and it's in Forest Elbow again.
Yeah, Forest Elbow, I think. Oh, that's not going to help. That's hard into the wall backwards. Yeah, Forest Elbow, fantastic corner if you get it right. An absolute pain if you get it wrong. Again, going back to the uneven surface of Bathurst, very easy to lock a wheel coming into Forest Elbow, which will then drag you to the outside. It'll drag you to the right because it unsettles the car, and then obviously completely ruins the apex for the left, which costs you time all the way down the back straight. So Forest Elbow, probably the most important corner to nail on this lap.
It really is, because that straight. I mean, the other thing too, turn one, hell corner up the mountain straight. That's what the straight immediately after turn one's called. and that's also very important as well, but probably just a little less important than, of course, after Forest Elbow. Rose came by a lap ago and improved a 10th, and they've done it again. Another couple of tenths, a 2-minute .932 by Anor Rose forces the delta between them and their next nearest competitor to more than 1.1 seconds. Does Fox have any sort of reply for that kind of speed? That is a 2-minute dead .932. Anor Rose putting on a show for us in qualifying today. Hamish with a nice pickup into P7 with a 2:05.375.
Yeah, and while that was going on, we've just seen April Carswald and Eris swap places there for second and third in the second class there. But Rose obviously set that lap, has now come back out again. Obviously, feels there's more time in it, which is just bonkers to me. I don't know how you could go any faster than that. But Fox obviously really hoping to, well, challenge Rose, no doubt. I mean, everybody here wants to challenge Rose, but we've seen Dove and Fox be the closest to that, as we see not an improvement for Fox, but another 202. So consistency on Fox's side, but unfortunately, it seems like that's all Fox has got in the tank.
We shall see with a couple minutes to play. What will it be? 3 minutes. That's good enough for about 2 realistic attempts if you're out on the track. Rain, by the way, who has the fastest lap in the second class by a large margin, top 5. That car still in pit lane. Very confident is Rain at this point that they might be on pole for their class. Sarah O'Brien, though, trying to do some damage and does improve on the scoreboard, a 6.317 for the Bad Girl Racing 96 Bentley.
Yeah, I'm just looking at some of these times, and they just, I mean, I'm not quick. I think I've always mentioned that everyone here is a lot faster than me, but it baffles me how quick some of these drivers are. It's just, I don't think I could ever get close to these times, as we see, wow, it's not the race yet, but we're seeing some action going. That was unfortunate. Poor old, was that Cosmo in the NSX? Yeah, unfortunately, just they were racing down into the chase, and yeah, I think they were both going to fight over the apex. Cosmo unfortunately tried to brake later to hang around the outside, but unfortunately just couldn't get the car slowed down, and then unsettled the rear, and unfortunately turned herself around.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Cosmo was giving way to the faster car, and found that braking offline was a bit more difficult, and turning at the same time looped the car, and that's unfortunate for Cosmo, because that will end Marsh's qualifying run here today, as they are in the pit lane. Rain still in the pit lane, of course, and Young. The reason we point that out is because those 3 cars are the only cars in pit lane. They will not participate further in this session. They are at the mercy of everyone else. McKenna Santos has been down near the bottom in this session. We're not used to seeing that. What will this lap be for McKenna? P13, a little bit more like it, an 8.835 for the Race Ventura driver, who is back at home, I've been told. Arrived home yesterday. Of course, wasn't with us last week, was in the middle of a trip. But they're back home this week, and back on the racetrack here tonight. Sarah O'Brien taking another stab at it. Now, Sarah will get another shot, and that one good enough for P11, a 6.222 for the Bad Girls Racing Bentley. They'll get one more shot. They cross the line before the timer expires. Of course, all flying laps count, including Paula Brady's lap.
Yeah, so everyone now probably pretty confident with the car on low fuel, with the tires where they are. We did see the 247 cross the line with enough time for a second lap, but has decided to bail out of it. So pressure really on for the drivers now, knowing that this is their final lap. So you will be sort of second guessing yourself at every corner. Like, can I brake a little bit later here? Can I get on the power earlier here? Can I turn in earlier? But there we go. Paula up to P5 with that lap. What an impressive lap that was, Jesse.
That really was. That was more than a second pickup for the Scrubs Go Racing DD car, as that put them all the way up into P5. That 48 Audi was flying on that lap, and you don't usually see that. They found something Paula did that was huge to them on that lap, and hopefully they can use that during the race. McKenna on a lap that is better than their previous, looking to get closer to the podium positions. Of course, McKenna debuted on the podium, and very rarely when competition has not finished on said podium, and that's really impressive for a couple reasons. One, she's a true rookie. Number two, she uses a gamepad.
Yeah, the gamepad speed from some drivers is just like I don't understand it. I'm rubbish on the gamepad. As we see, McKenna, it is an improvement for McKenna, but unfortunately only in time and not in standings. But yeah, Bathurst on a gamepad, Jesse. Could you imagine?
No,
Hats
no, I
off.
cannot. No,
Hats
absolutely
off.
not. No, not even in the grid series. Not on your life. You won't catch me doing it.
As we see, Sarah O'Brien now the last across the line, ends up P11 overall, but fourth in their respective class.
Well, this being the midway point in the season after today, let's show you how the first two rounds of the championship have shaken out. You'll never guess who's at number one. Oh, yes, Adel Rose in the 56, 39 points over Sarah Dove in second place with 29, tied with Nicole Fox for the second place honors. Ruby Acosta with 25 in in fourth place in this case. Sasha Death on 21 points rounds out the top five. Paula Brady with 18 and 6. Sarah Johnson tied with Hamish for the seventh place spot, 15 apiece. Sophie Erwin, who is not with us this evening, with 13 points. Cosmo Marsh rounds out the top 10 with 11. And they call it the AM class, but I feel it's a disservice to call some of these drivers actual AM drivers, so I refrain and call them the second class. M. Young with 39 points, leading the charge there. April Carlsvard, 34 points in second place. Rain with 29, tied with Sarah O'Brien for that final podium spot. Fifth place, Eris with 25 points rounds out your top five. Natalie Lee, 1 point behind in sixth place. Charlotte Robertson on 18 in seventh. McKenna Santos, 15 points in eighth. And Sean with 13 points is your final second, or AM if you prefer, driver. Well, the points championship after two is very non-committal. It's very close for a lot of positions. And Nate, if you don't do well here, if you get into the wall, those points are going to change really quickly, and you're going to find yourself in a hole for the second half of the season.
Yeah, I can imagine this will be a huge turning point for a lot of the standings tonight. I imagine the drivers at the back of the grid will just be trying to absolutely nail it to make up as many places as they can, while the drivers at the front will be trying to keep it sort of relatively calm and safe to avoid any incidents. And obviously, the two are going to meet somewhere. And yeah, I imagine there'll be a few incidents, maybe just a couple of drivers, maybe getting a little bit impatient, trying to pass on the mountain. That's always risky, and it will 99% of the time end up in an accident. But we'll have to wait and see, Jesse. I predict that we will see a few incidents across the top of the mountain.
I would say that's a fair bet in any motor competition. I don't think anybody has ever left here. I don't think there's ever been a single race around the mountain where somebody didn't get into the wall. It's almost like a tradition. We have a similar one like that here in America in oval racing. There is one track. It's the track that's too tough to tame. And if you've raced there and you didn't put a stripe on your car by hitting the wall, did you really race there? Hopefully, though, the majority will be spared that fate. Charlotte Robertson in the chat, or Lottie as everyone calls them, says that they got one valid lap in 20 minutes. Upside down emoji. Yeah, that is pretty much the mountain in an absolute nutshell. Also, Lottie has given us giving us some coaching here. It could be the A class and the 1 class. Could be, but I confuse myself with numbers and letters enough. So that's why I go 1 and 2 because I can count to 2. But the plan today, Nate, has to be stay out of the walls and stay away from each other more than any other track on this schedule, more than Laguna Seca. In my opinion, this is the track where you race the racetrack, not the competitors.
Do you know what? I've never thought of it like that, but when you put it that way, yeah, it does make a lot of sense because you're more likely to fall victim to the racetrack than you are to another competitor. So, yeah, I suppose the biggest mission of today is just get around the track without putting it in the wall. So we'll see how many of our drivers can do that for the next 90 minutes. But fingers crossed, Jesse. It's all of them. But who knows? We've seen it all season. It's unpredictable. We never really know. Other than Rose turning up, taking pole position, and wandering off into the distance, we don't really know what's going to happen past that.
At this point for Anal Rose, don't we just hand them the trophy before the race starts at this point? I think it's getting in that territory. The most dominant driver in recent memory in the Diamond Drive Cup, Anal Rose, the only driver I can think of that even comes close to rivaling Rose's dominance is, of course, George Boothby. But that reign of dominance has somewhat ended in the current seasons. So if Rose continues on the path that they are on, they would become undisputably the most dominant driver in RCI history.
No pressure then, hey. Let's just drive it like you normally would.
Well, I have heard it from I believe, the head steward that there would not be a restart today unless basically the entire field was taken out due to the limited amount of cars in the race today. I understand that sounds bizarre, but that is actually standard protocol. There's a car crash quota for a restart, so a restart very unlikely, even on the mountain today. Nate, I will ask you as we drive around on our outlap right now, what are the keys if you start somewhere in the first couple of rows? What are the keys to getting a clean start and a good start here for the first couple of laps?
Go fast, don't crash. I think you said it already in the build-up, Jesse. It's like you said, you racing the racetrack. So I think the key thing is, it's quite obvious and evident. I'm going to say it anyway. Is just keep it out of the wall. That's all you have to do. Because passing is quite difficult. Obviously, further up the grid with some of our more experienced racers, they understand the dangers and the challenges of this racetrack. So are prone to being quite sensible with the moves they make. Further down the grid with some of our newer racers, they might not quite understand the challenges and the danger that Bathurst really has when you're going at racing speeds. So we might see them not taking it as cautiously as would be preferred. But yeah, the key to, I suppose, keeping it on the track is keeping it on the track, Jesse. There's not much more to it than that.
And for Anal Rose out front, you've been so dominant, but this is a classic trap race where if you get into the wall hard enough here, it could basically end your day. What is the mentality of your championship leader and pole sitter?
I think Rose just sort of turns up and goes flat out. I'm sure the girl only has one mode and it's fast. You could have set this to flooded, like torrential downpour, and Rose would just be like, yeah, I'm just going to send it. Let's go, see what happens. Yeah, Rose only has one mode and it's go, it's fast. So front, back, middle of the grid, Rose is just going for it.
Do you think Rose has ever done anything slow in their entire life? Maybe change a tire or watch the entire MCU universe series. I don't know. I just can't imagine Rose doing anything at a leisurely pace.
I could probably think of one thing, and I'd say it's the time taken to design the Queen's Design liveries. That's not something that you do.
That is lovely.
Yeah, see, that's not something that you do rapidly. That takes a lot of time and dedication. So I'd say Rose went quite slow for that one, but can't really think of much else.
See, this is the quality broadcasting you've come to know and love from the DDC. Well, Rose out front with Fox. They will be the front row. Dove and Death the next row, and then Brady and Rain the row thereafter. Wherever you are in the world, we thank you for joining us on your Wednesday evening. We hope you're having a lovely evening wherever you are. And of course, a big thank you to our partners, Race Department, AK Informatica, Driver 61 Fanatec, and SimRacing.gp. We'll talk more about those folks after the race today. But for now, the task at hand, 7:30 p.m. The sun nearly setting already, and 1 hour 30 of racing to do. That's 90 minutes on the mountain. The midsummer race, or the mid-season race, I should say, about to get underway. 2x2 off the final corner, side by side, the very abbreviated front straight here, waiting for the flagman and the lights. Waiting. It takes an eternity, and there it is. The lights are on, and the flagman waves, and an immediate cover by Rose into Hell Corner and up the mountain straight. It's a decent enough start from Fox as they're 2x2 from the third row back.
Yeah, so I thought we saw Dove and Fox get into each other there. I'm not quite sure if they did or not, but I thought that's Dove on the left, isn't it? I thought Dove got turned around, but fortunately didn't. And now we see them side by side coming up into turn 3. They're going to touch door handles. That's going to put Dove into almost into the wall. That's
spicy.
A lot of places lost there. Dove now sort of corking the bottle, slowing the rest of the grid up who are at full racing speed. So what's that? 1, 2, 3 positions lost for Dove there. I'm sure she will be none too happy about that. There'll be strong words with Fox after the race, I'm sure. But so far, everyone pointing in the right direction, Jesse. Nobody in the wall. But Rose is gone already. Where's Rose?
2.2 seconds out in front is where Rose is. Fox holds on to that position, and Death in third. But meanwhile, the question of P4 is up in the air. Paula Brady holds on to that spot over Dove, but only just. Very tangible. Look how close Paula got to that wall, trying to shave off a little bit of the paint, perhaps, trying to maximize that corner as much as possible. And you can already see it. This is going to be a common theme. You saw it right there. Dove doing anything that they could to not be directly in the tire tracks of Brady, knowing that if Brady has an issue, if Brady's slow out of the corner, hits the wall, whatever, all Dove is going to do by following him is go right into the back of him. So an alternate entry point doesn't do anything but help them in that case. It certainly doesn't slow them down around the straightaway. Well, it certainly looks like Dove's McLaren has a little bit of legs on the Audi on the straight. Looking down to the inside, making a move, perhaps thinking about it. Nope, doesn't have the room quite. Brady does oblige, but nothing doing there. Single file.
Yeah, it looks like the Audi has the legs on that McLaren in the straights, but McLaren just seems so much better in the corners that, as you saw, Dove lined up the move, but just couldn't get close enough to Brady there to make the move sort of stick. As you mentioned, Brady did sort of leave the door there just in case Dove did send it, but Dove, being one of our more experienced racers here, is a little bit more courteous than that.
Yeah, Dove did not dive down the inside. I'm going to try another British. I'm going to try another British idiom today. That start was well good.
Oh my, no, right? Jesse, we're cancelling you. You're getting cancelled. But in the meantime, while you're being cancelled, we see Dove just climbing all over the rear wing of Brady here, just desperate to get by, to get back on the charge with Def and Fox there. But just as we mentioned in the build-up, Jesse, this place is so difficult to pass on that poor old Dove is just going to be on the bumper of Brady for the next sort of, all the way down the mountain for sure. And unless she gets a good run out of Forest Elbow, probably for the next lap as well.
Well, oh my goodness, shot out of there. A little bit loose was Paula Brady, but it doesn't really matter, like you said, on the mountain. And there you go, Dove doing everything they can to change the angle of attack of that corner. Really what Dove's trying to do is get a better launch, and this might be all she wrote. Really close behind is Dove, 2 abreast now down the straight. Conrad straight, one of the longest straights you'll ever see, up and down a hill, almost like a roller coaster. Too wide through here. Very dangerous.
Brady's lost it.
Brady's lost it.
Oh, but gets it pointing in the right direction. Luckily, the field was spread out enough that Brady managed to do, well, a pirouette there and get it pointing the right way without losing too much. Unfortunately, just caught that inside curb, and that was vicious, Jesse.
Yeah, it sure was. I told you one of the most underestimated parts of this race course are the gigantic curbs. You can't hit them nearly that much, jumps over them, and goes for a wild ride. But can I just say, Paula Brady, an excellent recovery made to look easy. I guarantee you, I can promise you, that was anything but.
Oh yeah, I'm dizzy just watching that. Oh my goodness, I hate to have been in the car, but now Paula is under attack from Carlsbad. Those tires are going to be, well, toasty to say the least. So grip going to be at a premium there. It looks like Carlsbad is just going to try and run it around the outside here into the Audi corner and does so. Yeah, Brady gives it up.
Well, of course, those tires are not going to be happy, or as we say in America, those dogs are barking. And who knows if they will ever go back into the shape they left the factory in at this point, because that was a massive spin. But let's not dwell on the negative. Let's focus on the positive. That usually a spin there goes way more wrong than that, but just excellently maneuvered and continuing on. Usually that's an automatic trip to the wall, followed by an immediate trip to pit lane. Here, at least there are options for Paula, because if they can survive for 30 minutes on those tires, they can do their scheduled pit stop, which they are required to take, and of course take additional tires and pretty much be reset to naught. Their race definitely saved by that, what'd you call it, a pirouette, an excellent pirouette. If this was Olympic committee, I'd give that a 9.8.
Not a 10 out of 10, Jesse. That's unfair. Paula, I'd give you a 10 out of 10 for that one.
Well, the average of that looking like a 9.9, excellent average for Paula Brady. That's how they do it in the Olympics, I suspect.
Yeah, we'll go with it. We'll run with it. RCI Olympic pirouettes here at Bathurst.
You know, I've judged drifting competitions on racing sims before. It's sort of what you're looking for specifically. It's kind of like an Olympic committee. Paula Brady here trying to get that spot back now that they've had a lap or so to cool those tires down. Maybe they have went back into the factory Pirelli mold shape because they're making a pass or trying to make a pass on the outside. This can be a bit tricky here, but can still be done, especially if you can hang it around the outside. Can't do it here and has to give up that spot, and unfortunately that will likely mean they will be behind April Carlsbad. And just as I say that, contact with the wall. Was that a touch that led to that contact to the wall, or was there a slip before that? April Carlsbad in the wall either way, giving up one spot here, maybe two. A touch on the wall for Hamish, I think that was. Looking up the inside is Eris now, and they're going to have to sort this out really sharpish now.
Yeah, so the consequence of the slow McLaren of Carlsbad is everyone else sort of gets caught up in that. Everyone else has to slow down. And obviously, if you're not expecting it, it catches you unawares, which can lead to more contact. So I think what's happened here? So yeah, just the closing speed there just caught Brady unawares and unfortunately shot them into the barrier. Brady makes a hasty escape, it looks like, but yeah, that was just really, again, it's just that speed difference, like just catch you unaware. And unfortunately there, in these mid-engine cars, if you try and put more brake on, chances are you're going to send yourself into the wall backwards, and you know, that's not a great thing. But it looks like Paula's given the position back. Yeah, so Paula has slowed down to return the position to Carlsbad, but now has to be very careful about becoming under attack from Eisner and Eris back there. But a smart place to do it into the chase, because you don't really lose too much time. But I have a feeling, whoa, that was a smooch, Jesse. Just a little love kiss, little love tap.
I will say that was expertly done by Brady. I couldn't have done that any better if I wanted to. That was, like you said, perfect position to give that spot back. And what that also tells me, that the helicopter cam kind of left a little mystique for me of what actually happened. That tells me that Paula has taken responsibility for that contact and has decided to give that back. But like you said, it has led to this moment right now where Hamish looking racy on Brady now, looking like they may be able to take that spot away. Can't do it this time, but I think you're right. I think that closing rate was just a little high and caught them completely unaware. We do have one bit of stewarding that's come in, and this is consistent with RCI, or with the Diamond Drive Cup being one of the cleaner championships, maybe the cleanest of the championships that we run. And I actually don't have the report yet. I was told to expect one, but I don't have it quite yet. Oh, there it is. Will Stevenson with the slips of paper here. A racing incident on lap 1, turn 1 between the 11 and the 22. A racing incident on lap 2, turn 19 between the 69 and the 30. A racing incident between the 69 and the 30 on the subsequent follow-up corner. Let's take a look at the replay here.
So was this? It's just a couple of little hip checks, a couple of little door bangs. I don't think it was anything too serious, which, I mean, that's racing, but, oh, here we go again. We've been here before. We've seen the Audi on the inside of this corner with a McLaren before. Luckily, there, or I think, was there contact there, or did they just get extremely close?
I think they got away with it. I'm pretty sure Eris was, I think that was Eris anyway. No, that was not Eris.
That was yeah.
Hamish, I'm pretty sure Hamish, the camera angle made that look a bit naughty, but I'm pretty sure Hamish was offset to the back of Brady, and that was not contact, though I have been wrong before. My eyes aren't what they used to be. That's definitely contact, though.
Yeah, that was, I have to say, you know, Paula was on the inside there. There wasn't really anywhere that she could go, and Hamish just sort of shut the door, at least from the angle we saw it at. Yeah, so yeah, that's a tricky one to call. I'm glad I'm not a steward tonight, Jesse.
Especially for moments like that, but we showed you a couple of the contacts.
O'Brien's in the wall, Jesse. Sorry to butt in there. O'Brien just got love tapped out into the wall. Only minor contact, but yeah, everyone in this little gaggle of cars here just keeps checking each other up. They keep sort of not running into the back of each other, but there's an instant ahead. Everyone slows down. It's the accordion effect, and then it causes more chaos further back.
Well, of course, you always get these accordions or these cues, don't you, around the mountain, based on the passing availability being very limited indeed. Another look at this contact into Hell Corner. You know, they call it Hell Corner for a reason, and I don't think I need to explain any further than that. I think you just saw it.
Call it Unfortunate Corner, because that was unfortunate. I'm here all weekend. All weekend? All week. Oh my god, that's how tired I am. It needs to be the weekend already.
Don't know what day of the week. Well, we know what day of the week it is, because it's Diamond Drive Wednesdays. By the way, in the continuing saga of the I Just Can't Quit You, told you about how in turn 19 and 20, the 69 and the 30, in fact, Jake the Bosmeister Boswell showed you those contacts. It continued a few turns later. The 69 and the 30 racing incident for minor contact on lap 2, turn 23, and a fourth time between the 69 and the 30 racing incident in turn 23. Oh my. Yes, indeed.
Well, I mean,
here you're going to see the other one. Yep, there it is.
I mean,
excellent camera. How did Jake catch every single one of those?
Because Jake, Jedi, Ozmaster, all your nicknames, I can't remember them.
It's not my nicknames, it's his nicknames. He earned those nicknames, Nate. I didn't give him those.
Cosmo White there. And who else is right there?
The Rally Cross Driving, that's Young, that was off as well. And you have to wonder, is that drivers following each other off the racetrack? Certainly as drivers, we're all guilty of that from time to time. You follow whoever is in front of you, and sometimes it gets you into trouble. Take another look at that. What happened here?
So, this is O'Brien in the wall I caught. So we see Eris sort of making the move on the inside. The danger of being on the outside there is you can get pushed wide. And unfortunately, O'Brien loses 2 places as a result of that, but is now back ahead of Cosmo, so is now on the chase for Eris.
Well, it's been a very close affair. We've not seen anything but racing incidents in NFAs today. I think the 69 and the 30 will have had
They're
their few
sufficiently spaced now.
fair share of bumps, and they have decided to agree to disagree over the road space. By the way, not to get lost in this, I saw a pink car in the pit lane a lap or so ago. That car's still there. That is McKenna Santos in the 22. That car did not appear to be damaged in any way, but they are sitting idle in their pit stall and have been for at least 3 to 4 laps.
Yeah, maybe a technical issue. We're not quite sure. We'll have to see if we can get in touch with the car and driver. But it's a shame to lose one so early. I mean, we're just about to roll into 15 minutes of this, but, you know, sometimes these little gremlins can't be helped.
Stephen in chat has pointed out that Natalie Lee's not in the race. That is very eagle-eyed indeed, Stephen, as we show you the replay of the start. That was where those very early racing incident tiny contacts came from. But yeah, I mean, realistically, a really good lap one, very clean indeed. I mean, you're gonna always get some argy-bargy, some fender rubbing going on, but even as far as that goes, that was very mild.
Yeah, it was actually for this narrow track. Why is it, Jesse? Whenever we go to like a challenging track or a track with challenging conditions, the drivers just seem to step up and are like, you know what, we're not going to have an incident. Although we do see the 247 and the 177.
Oh no! Oh, hopefully Sasha can very quickly get that going. So what's happened here? A wide angle into Skyline and just missed it, decided to abort, but when entering the S's, got on the curb and could not stop the car and ended up Austin Powers in that tiny corridor. But luckily they've been able to get it going the right way. That's unfortunate. That was the third place car, I believe.
Yeah, so Def was running in third and now unfortunately has dropped behind Rain. The board hasn't updated yet. There it is. It's updated now. So, yeah, very unfortunate. That'll be a lot of damage to that car as well, which just compounds the issue. So it's the question of pit early to repair the damage or try and live with it and hope you don't lose too much time to those ahead of you.
So here's an interesting one coming from the stewards. A warning for car 48. Remember, that was the spinning top. Warning for car 48 for spinning themselves but not holding brakes. The 15 in the vicinity had to lift and avoid contact or an incident. Of course, the stewards, it's in the rules that when you're experiencing your crash, you are supposed to lock it down. The reason you are supposed to lock it down is because obviously you're more predictable if your car's locked down as opposed to you saving it. But just a warning for that occasion. And I will say, it was a magnificent save against what you're supposed to do, but still an absolutely brilliant save nonetheless.
Yeah, absolutely. Whoa, that camera angle there made it look like Brady was about to turn themselves around on the front of Carswell's car, but had enough space ahead to obviously chop in like that to make sure Carswell couldn't go back for the inside. And now Brady will be hoping to scamper off into the distance and chase after the 247, the wounded McLaren of Sasha Death. Are we going to get another look at it here? Nope, we've got more contact. Oh, so Johnson.
Oh no! Major collision.
So Johnson just got loose there and was, well, having their own incident trying to collect it. And unfortunately, Eisner just sort of drove into the closing space. It's always unfortunate. You never really know where a car's going to go, especially if it snaps one way, then snaps the other way. And, well, unfortunately, Hamish just chose wrong that time.
I legitimately don't know where that was. Was that Solman Park where that accident occurred? Was that after Reed? I'm not entirely sure. But oh, so Big Jake's telling me that might have been McPhillamy Park. So it was one of those corners. The camera angles very very nice to catch the action, but also a lot of those corners up there are fairly significant left-hand bends, and they all sort of blend together. Again, going back to my failing eyesight and my old age, Eris in P8 has decided now is the time to pit. It will pit the 8th place car, and that will be the pit stop for that team today. As well, we thought we might see a penalty for the 48 for the contact, and indeed we have done.
Yeah, so we have got lap 4, turn 4, involving the 69 and the 48, which was obviously Hamish and Paula. I believe Jake is going to pull it up here. No, so this is a separate incident, is it? Oh no, Carlsveld and Paula, apologies, that is my mistake. So this was the incident we saw earlier with, unfortunately, car 48 getting a 15-second penalty for that.
Yeah, it states an overtake with excessive contact increased to 15-second due to significant damage caused to the 69. Now that's interesting that they went that route. They could have went the other way of, incident leading to position change and then position given back, but they went through the motions of an overtake with excessive contact. So either way, in my mind, it was going to be a 15-second penalty.
See, I'm honestly surprised by that because the position was returned. So,
well, it's normally a drive-through, Nate, if the position isn't returned, and it's lessened to 15 if it is, which was totally what I expected. But they actually went the extra mile with that and looked at that a bit more closely, which leads me to believe that they saw something in the 69 car as well that led them to believe, that there was something else there. Otherwise, it would have just been a takeout, as it were, but deemed not that, in fact. But a 15-second penalty either way. I feel like that is the appropriate response.
Yeah, I would say that's fair. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm just a little bit too lenient, a little bit too soft. But yeah, fair, but I don't know. This is why I don't think I'd make a good steward in the long run.
Cosmo Marsh at a P9, trying to fend off Young behind and also trying to work out Sarah O'Brien just in front of them. O'Brien's third in the second class. Rain, by the way, who we haven't talked about at all really in the 15, has scampered away from the rest of their group. Carlsvard is second. O'Brien is third in that class, but they are quite a far ways apart. No use talking about Anor Rose because you know what they're up to at the front of the field. Fox in second place. Dove now in third in the 177. And let's see. Santos is back out on the track. They're 4 laps down to the leader, but they're back out on track. That tells me that there was a technical issue on their end, but the 15th place car has rejoined the race.
Yeah, we'll have to find out what it was after the race and just have a chat in our own time with the driver about it. But on board with Cosmo here, Jesse, you really see them fighting the car across, well, over the entire point of the mountain. That car just looks like it is sliding about everywhere. I would be nervous to be driving that car. You can just sort of see it here. The back end just sort of goes coming over the mountain. Well held. My goodness me. Yeah, I would not want to be driving that car right now.
Well, the Honda can be a weapon around here if you can survive the mountains portions, that is. And, well, you are going to likely see a lot of busy hands on the steering wheels of these cars, especially now. We're about 25 minutes into the race. The tires are not new anymore. They're losing a little bit of grip, and depending on where your air pressures were, they might be a little off as well. And now you are you're in that stage where you're coping with what the car and the track is giving you. And for some drivers like Cosmo, you're attempting to race somebody as well, which just further complicates the matter. The 828 of Eris has a 5-second penalty. Nate, what's going on with that?
Well, if I read the lovely little slip of paper we've got, We got instant on, lap 6, turn 4. I'm sure Jake will hunt that down for us when he is free. Involving cars 96 and 828. 5 seconds for car 828. Forceful overtake with contact.
Oh, Honda. Oh, Honda's thinking about it. Cosmo looked at the inside, sold them the dummy, but no, it's not on. This is the aforementioned contact, I believe.
It looks like it's already happened. So it was that forceful. It deleted the replay file.
Eris with mind powers, as it turns out. No, it did whatever it was. It happened before that. We didn't catch it. That's fine, but the stewards definitely did. 5 seconds for that infraction, as we have had a couple of cars that have pitted already, Eris being one of them. Hamish has also pitted. They're back in 14th, and now Charlotte Robertson pits out of P12.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see a couple of the drivers pitting earlier than expected. I wouldn't expect to see people pit this early unless, well, they have significant amounts of damage to the vehicle. So we'll have to wait and see how the strategy plays out for them. I know for a fact I would not want to do an hour, well, just over an hour on a single set of tires here. So, I mean, hats off to anyone who can make it work, but we'll see who's right and who's wrong, well, at the checkered flag, Jesse.
Well, I must say, a shocking turn here. I've just received, via Will Stevenson, a drive-through for car 48 for a takeout on car 30 through turn 1, position not returned, and that's the held corner contact we saw. Let's take another look at this again, Nate. Tell me what you see.
Okay, so I didn't see that the 48 got a bad drive off of the final corner there. So I thought they just outdragged Hamish into turn 1. So that definitely changes, obviously, how the stewards would have approached it. It changes the way that we view it now as well. So it just seems like the 48 was quite urgent to keep the position there. And maybe was a bit too forceful in trying to defend the position. Obviously, stewards have deemed it so, hence the penalty. But Jesse, where do you sit on this one? I've not asked you a question tonight. I'll ask you my first one now.
I'm asking the question of what Cosmo's going to do myself right now. That's the question I'm asking myself. I don't know. I always feel when you're encroached upon that it's always whoever encroaches on you is at fault. But that also being said, most people would disagree with that, and they prefer the European rule of if it's not your corner, it's not your corner. But fundamentally, I find that logic a bit flawed myself.
So what are we going to see here? Just Cosmo doing Cosmo things, I guess.
Yeah.
Jesse, you said you've judged drifting competition before. How would you rate Cosmo coming down the mountain there?
Well, the speed wasn't great and the angle wasn't really good. It's gonna be a 1.8 from me, dog.
Oh, you're evil. You're mean.
I mean, also no smoke. No smoke. No wow factor.
Yeah. Okay. No, you know what? 0 for no smoke.
Zero in the smoke column. Unreal. M. Young trying to figure out a way around Cosmo. Cosmo still trying to figure out a way around O'Brien. This is what I'm talking about with that Honda, by the way. That Honda will destroy you on these very long straights, and it struggles, especially at the top of the mountain. The balance of that car, not particularly perfect, but what you'll see up the mountain straight this time, as you can already see on the front straight here, Cosmo has left Young a little bit, but you're going to see it really good here. If Marsh could get a good enough final couple of turns leading up to this point, Cosmo could realistically make this a reality, but just too far back. Honda is coming, but not quick enough to make the move, and continuing the showmanship a little bit by Cosmo, showing the inside, filling up the mirrors of O'Brien's Bentley. But of course, Sarah knows that Cosmo's not going to try and move from that far back. Well, yeah. I said stuff like that. And,
to be fair, Cosmo does close up significantly on O'Brien through this section. I'm not quite sure if the Honda is better or the Bentley's worse or what's going on, but Cosmo does gain significant ground there. So all Cosmo really needs to do, as we're approaching a slow car here, who is that off the track? The 69 of Carlsveld. So Carlsveld's had a problem somewhere in amongst all of this going on. Not quite sure what's happened, but yeah, back to this. Oh, that car is wounded. That is a sad looking McLaren. So let's
Well, it
have
already
a
was
quick
damaged,
look.
remember? It
Oh,
had
so
several contacts. Oh, and
ooh,
oh my goodness. Oh, yeah.
that is a big contact in the wall there. Yeah, you can see steering on that is not straight. That's going to be a sad journey back to the pits. Oh, poor Cosworth running really strongly in this race as well. But like you said at the start, Jesse, oh, Young
Oh,
has an
no.
issue. What's happened here? It's all going off, Jesse.
That happened before we got to the kink.
Also,
And here we are, side by side, Young. Oh my goodness! Do you know what happened? That car, M had steering input over the hump, and it upset the car. I have never seen that in ACC.
no, that looked so bizarre from offboard. I imagine Young is probably sat there going, what just happened? Why has my car done that? I mean,
I've seen that happen here in real life, where cars get upset when they crest that hill and they have steering input and they lose traction momentarily, and it can upset the car. Also, if you're changing your steering input as you're sort of light as you crest, it can happen as well. But I've never seen that in ACC, and I suspect that's what happened right about there. Well, looked like M was going to get that spot away from Cosmo, but it will not happen now. But going back to the 69, who we saw have an accident in Solomon, so easy to do. If you mess up any of those corners in that sequence, Griffins, Reed, Solomon, McPhillamy, you're in for a bad time. You're going to have a really bad run and several walls hit by the 69. Keep in mind, though, that car was already damaged, had already had several contacts with other cars, and had already been to the wall in the cutting as well. So already damaged. Their day going from bad to worse. In fact, Carlsbad in the pit lane now doing their pit stop.
I wonder how many of the drivers now are wishing they'd opted for two 30-minute sprints after the couple of early contacts they've had here. But one driver definitely happy with the 90-minute format that we're having now is this car here, the 56 of Ainor Rose, just out in front, no one ahead, no one behind, just almost like they're hot lapping alone at the moment. They've probably not seen a car in the last 30 minutes, Jesse.
Well, folks at home, take a good look at the Queen's Design 56. This is Ainor Rose, the fast approaching to be the most dominant driver in RCI ACC history. We'll still see if that continues. A couple more races. I might have to do the math on how long Boothby's reign was, and I'll get back to you in 1 week's time for round number 4 and tell you how many more races Ainor has to dominate to overtake that mark. It can't be more than 2 or 3, I assure you. But Ainor Rose destroying the field again, showing you what an esports caliber driver is capable of. And, well, it's a bit frightening, if I'm honest.
Yeah, sometimes I forget that Ainor does esports, and then it's just so apparent when you mention it. It's like, oh yeah, that's why they're like a million seconds a lap quicker than the nearest car. It's just, yeah, and like it is frightening, really. It's just almost inhuman what esports drivers can do. And obviously, Rose very successful in SR esports. Has actually won multiple events with them and has the trophies and the prizes to prove it as well. So yeah, Ainor no slouch. Slouch. There we go. Ainor no slouch when it comes to being quick.
Well, as we are down under 1 hour of race time, let's talk about some of the other things that have happened. Of course, McKenna Santos, who was in pit lane for several laps, Well, they went out and ran some more laps, and I don't know if they crashed again or what. We certainly missed it if they did. But McKenna Santos unhappy with the car. They have retired that entry. The 22 Race Ventura car is no longer participating in this race. Something else interesting that just occurred as well. Eris had completed their prior pit stop, but also had a 5-second penalty. But instead of taking the 5 seconds added on to their race time, they yeah, yeah, that is exactly what happened to Im Young. That is exactly that car got light. It bottomed out on the back end. I have never seen that in ACC. That is shockingly realistic. So let's see from the driver's perspective. This is Detective Jake the Bosmeister Boswell, by the way. Yeah, just lost it.
Yeah, just a small angle in the car there, and that bump, like you said, Jesse, just totally unsettled the back end. That was just I'd be annoyed about that one. I don't know about you, but
Oh, I'm not even on the Team Green team, and I'm annoyed about that because that is so okay. The car hit the top of the crest and it porpoised, which meant that it lost traction. There was steering input without traction, and when it finally hooked up, the steering was going the wrong way and just hooked them right into the wall. That is such a bizarre accident, but also a shockingly realistic one as well.
Yeah, so I mean, the only upshot to that is, I mean, unfortunate hit the wall, but very easily could have speared into the side of Cosmo there, which would have been, well, probably race ending for the pair of them.
That's a good point. Oh, that would have been catastrophic, an accident at those speeds in the middle of that straight. McKenna Santos joins us in chat confirming they had a second big crash and it would have taken way too long to repair the car, so they were forced to retire. What I was talking about with Eris a moment ago, Eris in the 828 had served the mandatory pit stop, and then it got a 5-second penalty as far as I recall after that. But it came back down pit lane to serve the 5-second penalty, which certainly has to be longer than just taking the 5 seconds, right? Or am I missing something here?
No, I think you're right, Jesse, because it's the trundle down the pit lane, and what you lose 25, 30 seconds going down pit lane, then obviously the 5 seconds to stop. So I mean, yeah, the pit lane time definitely outweighs just the slap 5 seconds you'd have gotten for just not completing it at the end of the race.
I wonder, I almost wonder if Eris had a ulterior motive for that stop, meaning that it needed some additional changes to that car or something. Because that's the only way I can justify that makes sense in my head. And I'm assuming that is what happened.
Maybe it just didn't want the penalty looming over its head.
It's a good point. Either way, still in the race is Eris in the 828. And of course, several cars have had a very rough day, and there's still P4 in class. So realistically, not too terrible considering where they were running before. Rain still leads in class by 20 seconds over Sarah O'Brien, and M. Young now third in that class. Everybody else has pitted in the second class. 9 cars still yet to pit in this race. And the question of when is the question I will ask Mr. Nate. Halfway sound good to you?
Always halfway. I'm always a 50% kind of guy. Never do anything past 50%. It just doesn't work out. So minimal effort, maximum return is what I go for. I'd say halfway would definitely give me that result.
I'm gonna meet you halfway. See what I did there.
Are you gonna sing for me? Are you gonna sing? Come on, sing on the broadcast, Jesse. In fact, no time for singing. We've got Cosmo March taking on O'Brien here. trying to go around the outside there into the final corner.
Not
Not
done.
quite going to do it. But
Aw.
now, will Cosmo be close enough?
Oh!
Switches to the inside for turn 1. Not going to have enough speed to do it. Wisely backs out. Really needed to stay tucked up behind the Bentley here to use the slipstream and just the raw power of the NSX there.
Company.
But yeah, Young not too far. Young's catching back up, and not over from or not satisfied with bouncing themselves along the wall. Wants to try and get past these two cars as well. But what Cosmo really, really, really needs to do is just drive slower. I know it sounds daft. Drive slower. Drive at like 90%. Stay on the back of O'Brien here, a bit like that. But do that through Forest Elbow, and then just use the straight line speed of the NSX to breeze past the Bentley there. But unfortunately, just the car's so loose. Look at the input Cosmo is having to make on the wheel there just to keep the thing in a straight line.
Yeah, some of that is how you drive the NSX. Some of that is the mountain, and all of that control is down to Cosmo behind the wheel of that car, but clearly losing time. You know, I would have thought, and I'm pretty sure on almost any other chassis, damage to M. Young's car would have been catastrophic. But because it's an AMG, and this is not an advert, but because it's an AMG, I think it's just about survived that hard impact with the concrete wall. It doesn't actually look too bad as well. I can't see anything too amiss with that car. All I know is that if that would have been a lot of the other manufacturers in this race, that would have been an absolutely catastrophic accident, as I believe I just saw Sarah O'Brien hit the dirt there.
Potentially. I didn't catch it. You must have better eyes than me. But yeah, we just see Cosmo get so close. So Cosmo just needs to stay tucked up, not try and sort of send the nose down. Never mind, Cosmo's gonna Cosmo isn't. God, what a roller coaster that was. But yeah, Cosmo really just needs to sit behind O'Brien into that braking zone, just stay as close as they can, and then really just launch out of turn 1 to get the legs on the Bentley down here. But unfortunately not quite happening. O'Brien just doing enough to keep ahead there. So I mean, this is some fantastic driving we're seeing between these three drivers. But if you're Cosmo Marsh here, Jesse, you're probably a bit sick of looking at the back of that Bentley.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, if I was Cosmo, who just got into the wall exiting the cutting. If I was Cosmo, yeah, I'd probably be a little sick of it. Let's take another replay here. See what happens. On the gas a little bit too early? You bet it was.
Oh, it was just a glance, though. That will be fine.
Tis but a scratch?
Tis but a scratch, yeah. Let's see now. Where are we? What? Where are we going? Here we go. Here we are. There we go. So now Cosmo's obviously, as a result of that glancing blow, lost time to O'Brien, which has now left them open to attack. Oh, well, had lost time to O'Brien, so I don't know if O'Brien had made a mistake somewhere there, but Cosmo looking quite close as we see Young running a little bit wide in the background there. Potentially some avoiding action. Let's see what happened here. So, oh yeah, a little bit deep coming into the corner.
Ooh, good save.
Yeah, good save, good avoiding action. But now a little bit too far off the back. As you see, Cosmo really, really trying to line up the move here, but just can't make it stick.
It is excellent driving between these two. I just feel like this could happen at some point. O'Brien struggling just a little bit in the third sector, and that's allowed Cosmo Marsh to all but get clear here, and that might be it and done off the final turn. Cosmo Marsh, the Cosmo Project #2 NSX, gets the job done finally. 25 minutes of fighting, 25 minutes of probing for weakness, and a trip to the wall has promoted Cosmo Marsh into P5 around Sarah O'Brien finally.
Yeah, that was really well done, especially like you said, Jesse, the amount of time the cars were fighting one another to actually, not swap paint with one another. So well played. So Cosmo's got their reward now. So all they have to do is wander off up the road and leave O'Brien and Young to fight it out now.
Well, M has saw Cosmo do it, and now M's saying, "Well, if Cosmo did it, surely I can pass Sarah O'Brien as well," and that will help their confidence and maybe a little bit of urgency from M as well, because this is for P2 in their class.
Yeah, so like you said, it's probably a case of anything you can do, I can do better. So Young are gonna look for a way past O'Brien there as we look
Oh, that's a leader.
back. Oh yeah, so that's lit. I wonder what we're looking back at there. I recognized that was Rose's BMW, but I was like, well, whose
Yeah,
wing are we looking
that
at?
didn't compute because we're at P7. We're only halfway into the race, and surely this isn't the case. But oh no,
Young's in the
Im
wall.
Young distracted by the leader. A hard trip to the wall in Forest Elbow. Talk us through this.
Oh, so you see there, the back end just got loose. Same thing that Young did last lap. Just maybe carrying a little bit too much speed in there, and just the back end gets away. And then, unfortunately, trying to gather it all back up, just ran wide into the wall there. So that, I'd say, you know, the first glancing blow was enough to shrug off. I've got a feeling the AMG won't shrug that one off quite as easily. As we see O'Brien coming into the pit. So we're about the halfway mark, Jesse. So maybe now we'll see a couple of drivers, as we see Rose in the pits as well.
Oh my goodness. Rose had a more rapid pit entry than Sarah O'Brien did, and that held up Rose just a little bit, but O'Brien did an excellent job, kept him behind, and now pits at the halfway point, which was certainly their plan all along, just make it to halfway. Probably, honestly, if I'm O'Brien, I didn't care too much about Cosmo getting by. There is an overall championship, of course, that you're probably not thinking of too much in the middle of a race. I don't know, and I can't speak for all drivers, but I never really think about points mid-race unless it's my own class, even if there is an overall champ. It's just you're trying to finish as best you can, regardless, of course. But it would sting less. It stung less for Cosmo to get by than it would for M to have gotten by. The question is, with both of those two cars in, O'Brien and Young respectively, does Young fix the damage of that car? I suspect we will have the answer to that quite quickly as they both exit the pit lane.
I would probably assume no, Jesse, based on
Really?
the fact that they entered the pits nose to tail. Well, assuming, oh no, so O'Brien would have had some damage as well, because they did get glanced into the wall, but it was only a couple of seconds, I would suggest. Wait, who is still in the pit? So Dove's in the pit, so the 37 is coming out of Young, and who, I suppose O'Brien, the 96. So O'Brien's gone. So, oh no, so yeah, I would say Young has repaired damage, but they're a long, long way back. So either O'Brien. So we're hearing there's about a 20-second difference in pit stops there. So I was about to suggest or theorize if O'Brien hadn't taken tires, but there'd be a bigger gap between the cars. And so maybe it was just all down to damage then, Jesse.
It very well could have been. I didn't see this earlier. My apologies to the stewarding team, but there was a 15-second penalty for car 888 for taking out the 30 with position returned. That was back on lap 8, and I didn't see this report come in, but Jedi Jake the Bosmeister Boswell has the replay anyway because he's a professional. Let's take a look at this.
Let's see. Oh, so that was the incident we saw earlier where unfortunately Johnson just got a little loose, lost it, tried to hold it, and unfortunately collected Hamish in the instant, shall we call it.
Yeah, yes, indeed, that was the case, and that was what the 15 seconds was for. But Sarah Johnson and Pineapple has already served that penalty. That joke will never get old for me.
It makes me jump every time you do it, and I know it's coming.
I just, at some point, Sarah Johnson's complicit in me making you jump out of your seat. At some point, you got to start blaming Sarah, I think. Nicole Fox haven't seen much of the next round racing 202 Macker, but that's because they've been all by themselves in P2. In fact, I believe on the same lap, and if not, the lap directly after Rose's pit stop. This car came into the pit lane as well. The top three all have pitted, and no worries or issues there. Fox does have a tangible lead on Sarah Dove, only about 5 seconds. The two McLarens driving very well and not too far apart. If I was Dove, 5 seconds, yeah, that's not too far at all, really. I can see Fox in front. That must mean I can go catch them, right?
Yeah, I feel like Dove has got a little bit of a grudge against Fox. Obviously, he did shuffle them into the wall at at that corner just back there in the distance on lap one, which caused Dove to lose places to it was Hamish and I think no, sorry, it was Sasha Death and someone else, which then compromised Dove's race. So Dove, yeah, a little bit of a grudge maybe on the way back to claim the second position that she might feel like is hers. But yeah, I've got a feeling that will be an interesting fight when it comes to a head.
I I hate to go back to the playground, but I didn't see your name on it.
But,
Oh dear.
I've just noticed, call me slow, and by all means, call me slow, that we've got obviously Rain here in the Team Green Mercedes, and we also have Young in the other Team Green Mercedes. I didn't realize, Jesse, that they were teammates.
Yeah, they sure are, and we had yeah, race number 2. That's right. Last week we had 2 Team Green cars, and Rain out in front of this one. I think it was the opposite last week at Laguna, wasn't it? Where it was Young out front early. So both the Team Green cars taking turns out in the front of the field. Today, Rain doing the heavy lifting. It hasn't really been too heavy lifting for Rain, to be honest. They've been out in space and they've not been challenged by anyone in the race at all, let alone their own class. Of course, this is the car that has had the most action. The Team Green 37 car has been in the war today. And Jake Boswell earlier mentioned that this car was long in the pit lane, and we can only deduce that that was due to fixing the damage. I know that there's people that sit on the fence of this issue, Nate, but for me, it's always worth it to take the time to fix the car to make it run a little bit better. Where do you sit on that?
Yeah, so me personally, I always like to fix the damage, but I've been in some team events where my teammates have said, when I'm doing a double, for example, that just stick new boots on it and drive on because you're only losing a few tenths a lap. It's negligible. You're not gonna lose positions over it, so just keep on trucking. But it's the psychological effect of it that the car's got damage, it's not driving the way it should. And it just it sits there in the back of your mind. It doesn't necessarily make you slower, but it just makes you wonder.
For me, it's all about driver comfort. A happy driver is a fast driver most of the time. And if I'm having to worry about, well, whatever the heck happened to the 37 when it crested the hill here about 6 or about 8 or so laps ago, I don't like that, especially after having a couple of extra hard knocks. I would rather reset to not lose the time and maybe put myself in a position to come back really late in this race. By the way, Young is catching O'Brien for that spot. That gap now down under 16 seconds. We'll keep up on that, see if that becomes a thing.
Oh, here we go, though. We've got
E2.
O'Brien about to catch Mars. Sorry to jump in there, Jesse, but we've seen these two going at it before. Cosmo spent forever trying to get past O'Brien there and is leaving the door open coming up into the corner here. So is O'Brien going to try and walk through it? O'Brien definitely tries. Now is hanging Cosmo out to dry on the outside, but it will give Cosmo the inside for the next corner as they go side by side. Very close there, but it's I don't think it was contact. I think Cosmo put themselves in the wall to avoid turning O'Brien around, but that will be hugely frustrating for Cosmo, having spent all that time trying to get past to do nothing but fall back behind them.
That was incredible racing. Very respectful. Can I just say between O'Brien and Marsh. Very respectful racing between the two of them. Their cars could not be more different if we tried, and they're racing around here nose to tail, and they have been doing for the better part of the last hour now. And that very nice stop, very smart stop by O'Brien, but I fear the reason that it was that close in the first place was that Cosmo's pit stop was a few seconds longer. Could that have been a couple seconds of damage repair to the two?
Well, we've got the magical voice in our ears, Jesse. That is Jake Boswell telling us that Marsh's stop was 2 seconds slower than O'Brien's pit stop, which would make sense considering how close they were when Marsh came out of the pit. So, yeah, maybe it's to repair damage, might have missed their box, or it could be anything. It could be just slow getting away. How often, Jesse, have you ever come in for a pit stop, dropped the car off the jacks, and gone to pull away and stalled the engine?
You've inadvertently given him a new nickname, I'll have you know. He's now Magic Jake the Bosmeister Boswell.
Genie Jake.
Okay. All right. Moving right along. 35 minutes to the race. The lights on the track have come on. The lights on the cars are almost compulsory at this point as well. We started near sunset at 7:30 p.m. local time here on the mountain in Australia. It's now nearly 8:30, and the light will continue to get lower. It won't go pitch black dark, I'm pretty sure, by the end of this race, though it might get dreadfully close. But the lights blaze on all the cars, and you can see it lighting up the asphalt. Very much important here. And weirdly enough, you might not expect this on top of a mountain, it will get darkest on the mountain first.
I'm not sure if that was sarcasm, Jesse, or just the general American education there, but yeah, the cars do look great, all lit up, and I'm looking forward to seeing them at night, especially with some of the auxiliary lights that will come into play. I think the stylistic, there we go, stylistic positioning of some of the aux lights. You can see on the left side of the windscreen there for Rose's car, it's a little orange strip. We've seen on the Team Green Mercedes's, they have a green aux strip in behind the grille there, and if you set it to orange, it does in fact look like the car is on fire. That's always good fun. So yeah, I look forward to seeing them. I think this is the first night race we've had, Jesse, correct me if I'm wrong, or well, dark race I should say. We started in the daytime.
This season, I'm pretty sure this is the darkest it's been. By the way, Nate, allow me to school you on some geography real quick.
Oh, no.
At sunset, it gets dark in the valleys first, is my point that I was making. You'll find that the highest points have the most light for the longest.
Oh, there we are. That is me schooled. RIP British education system.
I did say it the other way around, as Jake just pointed out. I am an idiot, yeah.
Was that so? How do we work this one then? You did school me. You taught me something.
No, Nate, you were right. You were 100% right. All right, and I'm going to shut up for the rest of the broadcast. I think I've just decided. I'm having a bit of a day over here, and I do apologize for that. Well, the point I was making very inefficiently, mind you, was that the top of the mountain is tree lined, so it gets darker quicker than the valley below it, and then I completely ruined that by being a bit of a smarty pants and an idiot on top of all of that. Rain leading in the second class. See how I transition? I just move on. That's professionalism. The 15 has had absolutely no troubles, as nearly everybody else in their class has had some. O'Brien has been up and down the podium spots, now has a decent enough lead, and I can tell you that Young is catching O'Brien, but now has Marsh in between the two of them.
Right, so we've got just over 32 minutes here, Jesse. We got three cars that we've seen run nose-tail before. As you see, Cosmo pretty much magnetized to that wall as they came into shot then. Yeah, three cars we've seen running nose-to-tail. They're about to be nose-to-tail again. I'm expecting fireworks.
You mean on the track or post-race? What are we talking about here?
Well, I mean, yeah, both. I can't see Cosmo letting this one sort of wander off, and I've also got a feeling Young will not be too pleased about not being part of this fight, although might be a little bit too far off the back to close down that gap in 30 minutes. What are they? 13 seconds? Oh, but we're being told by Genie Jake in our ears here that Young was 1.2 seconds faster across the lap. So, well, realistically, how many laps have we got left? So what, 2 minutes a lap?
I'm sorry, are you doing the maths?
I'm trying, but I didn't give
expect
up
that.
just before you said it, and I was going to leave it to you. But
I had to done the maths, and if Young continues at their pace, they will get there, but there's so many variables that it's nigh on impossible to predict accurately. They should get there if they continue at the pace that they're on. We will see if that comes to pass. I want to ask you a very serious question. You called him Genie Jake. You doubled down on that. Would you call him that to his face?
oh, 100%.
I would too if I was out of arm's length.
Yeah, but he's a genie. He's just in his little lamp. What's he going to do? Ask me to make 3 wishes.
Moving right along, 30 minutes of the race, nighttime encroaching the circuit and the surrounding town. And as stipulations are named in the background and in my ear, Sarah O'Brien knows that they're being run down. Certainly O'Brien knows that Young is coming, and at a decent clip as well, like Jake said. I would imagine that O'Brien's aware of that. Cosmo isn't necessarily picking up a ton of time themselves, so maybe O'Brien hoping that Cosmo holds Young up a little bit at this point.
Yeah, you'll always hope the car you're chasing gets held up, but the flip side of that is that you can also yourself get held up. Obviously, Cosmo allowing Fox past there, I'd say that was a little lift on the throttle, but that is probably straight to the worst place to do it, arguably, because you lose the most time. So hopefully, well, Marsh will be hoping that the same what's the word I'm looking for here, that Johnson will do the same. Not Johnson, O'Brien. Oh, I'll get there eventually, everyone, I promise.
Listen, there's several Sarahs, okay? All right, and it happens.
We do have too many.
Well, I mean, you can never have enough Sarahs.
We've got O'Brien. Well, I suppose Dove isn't really a Sarah. It's a Sarah, but I mean, it's near enough there. There's too many. It's too damn high, Jesse.
Is it? Do you just do a 2007 meme in the year 2022? Did you really do that? Oh my goodness. That's what this broadcast has become. This is what an extra 30 minutes does to us in the box. Are you happy, drivers? This is what you've done to us. We are, of course, past the point of a normal race, the final 30 minutes, the additional time to the mid-season race. And, of course, they had their say this week. They, on the basis of, did they want to run 90 minutes with 15 drivers? The answer was a fairly emphatic, heck yes, we do. So the race went on as normal instead of any of the other options that were provided by Tom Watts, of course. And, well, to their credit, they absolutely meant that they wanted to run this race this long. Oh, my God. I just saw M. Young take out a humongous chunk of time to Marsh, and I realized why now. Marsh has had a bit of an incident or an episode that has caused them to lose several seconds.
Yeah, I'd probably say it's just that the slidey setup they've got on that NSX might have finally come back to bite them. Wondering if Jake might be able to find us the replay if we ask him very nicely.
Well, you called him a genie, so I don't think he's going to do anything.
That's my first wish. I'm going to ask him real nice. See, do you like that?
I liked it, but I wouldn't turn your back in the parking lot tonight, mate, if I were you. We are going to look for that. Detective Jake Boswell will see if he can figure out what happened to the two. They lost several seconds. Whatever it was fairly massive. I think we can all agree. Racing in the dark on the Mountain 8, have you done any of that in ACC?
I think I have. I think I have been present for one of RCI's own bathtub races in the dark. I love it because this game looks absolutely beautiful. It's fantastic, but it disorientates. Night racing in general disorientates me because I
Really?
completely lose all of my markings. Like, obviously, never use brake boards as a reference because chances are they're going to disappear in the race. So everyone finds points on the track where they go, oh, okay, that tree there, I'll stop there. But in the dark, it just completely throws me off, and I just have no idea where I am at all points in the race, apart from the start-finish straight. And yeah, I love it. I just don't get on with it.
I love racing. I love racing in the dark simply because it hides my mistakes. If I brush the wall, you can't see the car. You cannot confirm the damage. But that was uh, that was the conclusion of Jake's fact finding there, saying that they lost time letting the leaders through. And that also explains a couple of things that have occurred. That explains why Cosmo has since picked up the pace and has chased down O'Brien a little bit. And also Young still coming, 5.8 seconds. Keep in mind, that was a 16-second gap after the pit stops about 15, 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, so Young really got a solid setup here. Obviously, we saw them have their odd little twitch on Conrod Straight, dropped time there, but then immediately caught straight back up. So whatever is going on with that Mercedes, Young has got it into a rhythm and is absolutely, well, washing away the seconds to Marsh here.
It's going to be very close. And my question now is, because Cosmo did pick up quite significantly, but that could have been O'Brien giving way to the leaders as well coming through, and probably was, in fact, now that I think about it. But if Cosmo continues to gain at the rate that they are, will Young get to Cosmo first, or will Cosmo get to O'Brien? I still think Young gets to Marsh first, and then Sarah O'Brien becomes a huge Cosmo Marsh fan.
Yeah, yeah, that'll be it. It's just, please hold them up. Don't let them come after me. But speaking of battles that are going on, we've got these two again. They're never too far apart from when they are. That's a Murrayism, isn't it? They're never too far apart from when they are. There we go.
That was one of the best lines of commentary I've ever heard. They're never far apart unless they are.
Yeah,
that's Murray Walkerism, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a Murrayism. I'm keeping that. There's a yellow flag coming up here. How are these two going to navigate that? Not sure. Oh, okay, yep. So it was on the left there. They've all got around it. But yeah, so obviously, as I mentioned earlier, Fox did give the cold shoulder to Dove earlier, pushed them out. Now Dove is, well, close here, as we see. So
Charlotte Robertson is struggling mightily in the S's, but doing the right thing, staying off the line after the crash. If we gave away a driver of the Spirit of the Race award for the race, I think it has to go to Charlotte Robertson today. That car's been a bit off. Sarah Dove is going to dive around the outside this time, inside to Fox. Fox just has the overlap exiting the chase and will continue to hold that second spot. Nicole Fox, Sarah Dove racing each other hard and in earnest here. Sliding out just a little bit was Fox, but Dove cannot mount a challenge. Inside defensive move into hell corner for Fox. Dove's going to get alongside, but not anywhere near close enough. The inside prevailing again, still looking to not drive into the tire tracks. An excellent exit out of hell corner is Dove. Dove's going to go up the outside. If you get far enough along, you can make this happen. They might be there. They are there. 3/4 of the way clear. That's good enough. They're going to be side by side, and they're still going to be side by side as they come into the cutting. Will they yield? Will anyone give up? Yes, they will. Conceded the spot. Dove up to P2. Fox down to third, but an excellent couple of sets of corners there.
Yeah, I got a feeling that Dove was coming through no matter what Fox said there. I feel like the niceties were gone. Oh, Fox, clips the wall in the background there. Potentially a little bit rattled by Dove sort of forcing their way through. But yeah, as I said, I got a feeling. Oh, glancing blow. That'll be fine. That'll buff out. Stick some speed tape on that. Get her gone. But yeah, Dove,
Get her gone.
get her gone. There you go. You can have
Nate,
that one, Jesse.
I would like to apologize. You've been working with me for way too long. That one's all on
Nicely's
me,
gone.
folks.
Dove, yeah, Dove was coming through. I don't think after lap one. Unfortunately, these two, obviously friends outside of this, but fierce competitors, had a couple run-ins at the last event as well. So Dove now saying, you know what, you just get out of my way. I'm coming through here. But it was well fought and yeah, clean. And like you said, Jesse, Fox was holding the inside for all of the corners, which did compromise her exit coming out of the corners. So I think that might be what caused the overrun coming down the front straight, the back straight. Which one do you want to call it? Second, fifth, ninth, that one. And yeah, obviously it was risky. Dove going around the outside obviously did that lap one and got pushed into the wall. So I'm sure there was a couple of flashbacks happening there, but managed to keep away from each other and then had the inside for the next few corners.
So Jake was interested to see what happened to Charlotte Robertson that led up to the incident. Lottie going through Skyline and down into the S's. Where does it go wrong? Just losing grip under braking, a common issue into the S's. But it's not the accident so much. It's what Lottie does after that. And realizing that there's probably cars still coming and is going to actually back it into the wall and let these cars through. Keep in mind, this is the battle we're watching. That was O'Brien, and there goes Cosmo. And eventually here comes M. Young. And very respectfully done by Charlotte Robertson. Just getting the car out of the way, the big issue there, because there's just almost no space. But Spirit of the Race Award indeed for the number 11, surely.
Yeah, absolutely. Charlotte always sort of finishes these events. It's really nice to see that no matter what happens, they're always there until the end. That instant, again, like you said, Jesse, just the rears breaking traction, and you feel it go. Like as soon as you tip the nose in, you can feel the back end is gone, and you're just like, oh, come on, I can hold this. And you try and try and try, but it's just such one of those painful, slow spins where sort of time slows down with the spin, and you're just like, oh, geez. And then you find the barriers, and it's just game over.
Well, normally as well, one thing we should point out is, first of all, I don't know how to do I don't know how the time works in Australia because it is very much nearly pitch dark. I didn't think we'd get to this far. I'm used to longer sort of sunset periods, but it got dark in a hurry. We will certainly be ending in pitch darkness. In fact, we're almost there, if not already there. But going back to Charlotte Robertson's incident that they had, normally speaking, I know the stewards would look very frowningly upon driving up the track backwards to get out of the way regardless, but there wasn't any other option there. That's all Lottie could do. So I'm sure that, it's one of those things. It's like needs must.
Yeah, like you said, I feel like it would have been harsh to have been penalized or even looked at because, well, it was that or to spend the rest of eternity just parked there. Like, what?
It's been 1,000 years.
There was no options. Or the other option was wait for cars to come through and completely T-bone her and shove her down the mountain.
No, exactly. You get into a situation like that where you're Austin Powers, as I put it, in that section of the racetrack, there's not a whole lot you can do. And even though that's technically driving head on into oncoming traffic, there's literally nothing else you can do. Again, needs must, surely. This is Anal Rose. This is the second time you've seen them all race. Why? Because they're out to a massive lead in this race. I don't know there's only 3 cars on the lead lap: Rose, Dove, and Fox, as far as I'm aware. At this stage in the race, it's been a unflappable, impeccable, and nearly perfect affair for the Queen's Design 56 today again.
This angle right here, Jesse, I feel like really demonstrates just how quickly the walls come at you especially at night. It's just suddenly nothing, and then bang, there's another wall there. And then you sort of turn in here, and it opens up. This is probably the most open part of the track, and then coming down here over the top of Skyline, it's just wall after wall after wall. And as we've seen, unfortunately, through the race, a couple of drivers have found them, but Anor, fortunately, has managed to avoid them so far.
Well, people often ask, what is the difference between a good driver and a professional one? It's it's consistency and not making mistakes. Cosmo Marsh has brought the Cosmo Project number 2 Honda back down pit lane.
Cosmo may be feeling an issue with the car then? Not quite sure. We'll have to ask them at a later date. But that now frees Young to go and hunt down O'Brien.
Well, Sarah O'Brien, who was the world's biggest Cosmo Marsh fan, is now cursing the very name.
Well, maybe Cosmo did hold Young up for a little bit, but probably not enough. It's never enough if they catch up to you and pass you, is it? But, well, as we've seen, Jesse, Young absolutely on a charge back here. Like you mentioned, the gap was, what did you say, 16 seconds to Cosmo when they came out of the pits, and Cosmo was some few seconds off the back of O'Brien. So 4 more seconds to, 4.5 seconds rounded up-ish to close down in 15 minutes. Jessie Lee, can she do it?
It's coming down at a expedited rate, and it needed to for 16 seconds in just about 40-ish, 38 minutes, but who's counting? It definitely needed to come down in a hurry, and in fact, it has done just that. It needs to continue, though, not quite there yet. Most laps, M. Young is about a second quicker than O'Brien, and this lap is not going to be any different. I suspect on the straights, well, actually, no, probably in the twisties, there's something amiss with the 96 Bentley that we just can't pick up on the camera. We can't pick up almost anything on the cameras now because it's dark, but you get my point. Because in the twisty section, Sector 2 on the mountain, the Team Green Mercedes is eating up the 96, and oh boy, you can see them. That means you can catch them. That was more than a 2-second pickup on that lap alone.
Yeah, through Sector 2, Jesse, I was watching the timing screens there, and Young took 2 seconds out of O'Brien in Sector 2 alone. So, yeah, as you mentioned, something about that 96 Bentley not happy over the mountain in all these twisty corners here, but something about this 37 Mercedes absolutely loving it.
Smells of drama to me for the 96, if I'm honest. Something must have happened to them the last time of the mountain, because not even I would lose 2 seconds over the top of the mountain if I wasn't scared by something. That could have been a wall or getting the line wrong or something. I don't think the 96 had any contact with anything. I just fear that maybe they had to abort a corner or two. And like I said earlier, like we said all race, really, you get one of these corners up here wrong, you're going to get several of them wrong because you don't really have a choice. They are a consecutive section of twisting, winding corners. In fact, that section there called the S's for a reason. Final 12 and a half minutes of the race. It'll be about 9 p.m. tonight when we finish up. The track temp has fallen just a few degrees. We qualified in 25 degrees C. It was 23, 24 for the race, and now 22, no wind to speak of. The track is still pretty much perfect, but the fight that we're looking at here for P2 in the second class, or AM, if you will, or as it was referred to earlier, the 1 class versus the A class. All of these sufficient names, but Sarah O'Brien has all the work to do in the Bad Girl Racing Bentley here.
Yeah, so I think you were right, Jesse. I think O'Brien may have had an issue over the mountain last time because the gap didn't really drop as much as we thought it might. But coming across that final sector there, Young made what, about 6, 7, 8 tenths of a second into O'Brien. So yeah, basically now Young has 10 minutes to find a way to get past O'Brien. She's basically there on the bumper of that Bentley. So yeah, 10 minutes to spot a weakness, 10 minutes to make the pass, 10 minutes to scamper off up the road.
Well, we saw O'Brien earlier in this race keep a very quick, in a straight line, Cosmo Marsh behind them for 20 some minutes. Surely they can keep him behind them for 10, right? I'm trying to pump up my driver here, Nate.
Well, you hope so, but it's going to keep us entertained for the next sort of 10 minutes. So,
Yeah.
you know, I hope it does go down to the final minutes. I hope it's not just sort of like a roll up and walk past type overtake, but I'm sure Young is hoping that it will be. Or O'Brien getting a little bit out of shape there. I don't know if that was maybe just a trick of the light, but it definitely seemed like the back end did step away for a moment then. But Young now looking close enough to be able to actually make use of the slipstream coming off the Boatley there. It's coming down, Jesse. It's gonna be soon. It's gonna happen.
Well, by my estimation, as just in front of these two, Lottie has spun off again. Don't know where they are. Oh, they were on the racetrack. In fact, now they get it going the right way, and no incident occurred. So where the 56 is, that's Rose, the leader of the race. They're going to get another 4, maybe 5 laps in, probably closer to 4. No, actually, yeah, maybe 5. In fact,
Yeah,
depending.
I think 5.
Yeah, depending on where the 56.
Oh, O'Brien's off, Jesse.
Oh
O'Brien's
no!
off.
O'Brien's off. What happened here?
Let's have a look. Was it just a case of, yeah, the back end just got away and just tipped them into the
No.
wall? Oh, that's devastating. So close to the end to be racing for an hour, well, an hour and 20 minutes, I suppose, and for it to not all quite come undone in the last 10 minutes, but to have such a small little error in the last 10 minutes will be deeply, deeply frustrating to O'Brien, who actually is a surprise that Sarah O'Brien's even here tonight. Said to all of us that she wasn't feeling very well. Had been advised to stay in bed, but nothing gets between an enthusiast in sim racing, and it seems not even an illness will stop Sarah O'Brien from challenging for, well, podium positions in class.
I gotta say, some of my favorite races I've ever participated in were races where I was feeling a little less than stellar, and people in the real motorsport will tell you that you forget about a lot of that stuff when you get inside the race car. I can tell you, usually inside my virtual one, I didn't. Oh, who was that off?
That was Sasha Def, Jesse. There was a yellow flag there at Forest Elbow, because I wanted to point out to you while you were talking then, I didn't want to butt in, I've done that too many times this race, that Young was actually on for taking 4th place overall in the race here. Apologies, 5th place. 5th place.
It's gone wrong for Sasha Death in this race near the end, but as Detective Boswell tries to find that for us, but what I was saying was, I can tell you that doesn't really translate to the virtual cockpit. You're definitely aware of how bad you feel, and like you said, O'Brien was told by experts to not participate this evening, but O'Brien refused, and looking like they're going to get a, oh my goodness, what on earth happened to the SD Racing 247 here?
So we're going to see the helicam over here. So it just seems like just clipped. Yeah, so clipped the inside wall, which speared them to the outside wall. Massive, massive damage to that McLaren. And, well, I think that will be the end of the participation from the 247 here tonight, Jesse.
Oof. That is as bad as you can crash into the S's there. That is worst case scenario. And I'm surprised that's only the second time we've seen that, but by far and away, the worst contact we've seen in the S's today.
Yeah, by far. Um, we'll keep an eye on Sasha, see if they do come back out. But yeah, with such little time in the session, I don't think we'll see them back out, unfortunately. But
No, yeah,
that will be music to Youngs. It is obviously.
Ooh,
Oh, who was that ran off
I
there?
think
Was
that's pineapple.
that Johnson? So that was the other Sarah. So, so we've come away from Sarah O'Brien. Now we're at Sarah Johnson. I don't know if Jake is just trying to trip me up here or if it's just a happy coincidence.
Well, I do know that Rain was wiggling the car on the pit straight there. That was in appreciation of what Johnson did, letting them through. Of course, that was a lapped car, but even so, it's nice to feel appreciated. And I always try to, anytime that happens to me, or vice versa, I always try to show my appreciation for other cars cooperating, especially late into a race like this. It's very much appreciated. But the Team Green 15, what can we say about this car that we haven't already? Talk about Anal Rose dominating in the pro class. Well, the second class has been dominated by Rain today in a brilliant drive, a almost faultless, if not faultless drive from the driver of the 15.
Yeah, we've not really seen too much of them because, well, they've just kept their nose clean and kept out of trouble. So, I mean, those are the races you like to have. You like to just sort of be quietly doing your own thing, away from everyone, just ticking the laps off. And yeah, Rain has absolutely done that here tonight, and I don't think there's much more we can say about it.
Well, looks like we were both. Nate, I was 100% on board with you. But as it turns out, Sasha Death is back out on the racetrack.
Well, I mean, it's nice to see.
It's lovely. I just don't know what I'm looking at. How?
You're looking at a brand new McLaren.
Yeah, but in how? That was a lot of damage.
Spare car? Do you remember that old F1 day? You probably remember. You were probably like your mid-30s when this was the thing.
All right, Nate.
when they had the spare car in Formula One, they'd crash on the formation lap, just run back to the pits, hop in the spare car, and off they went.
Back in my day, we had to wait till Saturday morning, the week after the race, to get highlights of Formula One.
No, never. You're not
Sure
that
did.
old, are you?
Yep. Back, I think dinosaurs just went extinct the year before that, I think is actually what happened. Ada Rose will come to get the 2 to go, this time through 2 laps to go in the race. We talked about Rain's dominance in the second class. So what about in pro? It has been equally as impressive for the Queen's Design 56. And as we've talked about all race long, nearly approaching a milestone, the milestone of all milestones, the milestone of the most dominant driver in RCI history. They're getting really close. What can you say about a driver that shows up every week, qualifies on pole, sets the fastest lap in the race? Of course, Rose has the Speed Juice fastest lap in the race award and wins the race, but not good enough. They do it in dominant fashion.
Well, I suppose the only thing you can say is rapid. I mean, we say it every time, but there is just no real way to describe how fast Rose really is. I mean, I know it's very easy to sit there and watch the broadcast and go, oh yeah, they're like a lap ahead of everyone, but to do it sort of at a track like this with this much speed is just, it's impressive. And you know, as we've mentioned almost every time we talk about Rose being an esports driver, it really does show itself at moments like this where you just see the car is just perfectly placed. Like, you couldn't fit a dollar bill between the side of the car and the wall there, and Rose just has it placed perfectly for almost every corner, making absolutely the most of the entire width of the track, letting the car run wide, all the things that you tell yourself to do that you never actually do in a car, Rose does without even thinking twice about doing it.
Yeah, it's just so dominant, and it's. I know for some of you, it's probably sort of boring to watch the same car dominate, but for me, as a spectator and a fan, I'm gobsmacked with just how good Anor Rose has been, and it hasn't always been like this. Remember, season 1 was going their way at Alton Park, and it just all came undone, and it happened in season 2 as well. It hasn't always been like this, but the last couple of seasons has just been all Rose all the time, and it is impressive to see a driver do that well. Before we get to the end of the race, this is the last lap of the race. I just want to point out Stephen made a couple of jokes at my expense, and I'm not above laughing at myself. So Stephen said, I bet Jesse met Ascari in person and went to school with Juan Manuel Fangio. I did, in fact. I knew them very well back whenever we wore our wool pants up to our belly buttons back then. That's how that works, right?
Oh dear. Jesse.
Oh my goodness. Hey, look, we're all having fun here, and can I just say, 90-minute race, it's been action packed, despite there only being 15 cars. You may notice we're down to 13 now. Was reported from head steward that the 48 seemingly lost connection. Didn't appear to be a quit on their own accord. That seems to have been some sort of connection issue that led to the 48 retiring just 2.5 laps away from the checkered flag.
That's upsetting. Very, very much so. Would you reconnect? How would you go about this?
They can do, but I feel they have elected to throw in the towel for the day. Unless it's a more serious issue with interconnectivity, which of course they wouldn't have likely been able to rejoin either way. Talked all the last couple of laps about Anor Rose dominance. Well, it continues. Perfect 3 for 3 this season. Anor Rose in Queen's Design wins again.
I mean, did we really expect anything else, Jesse?
Look, man, it's the mountain. Anything could have happened, but it didn't.
That is true. That is true. Anything could have happened. Like you said, season 1, we've seen it before, where a win seemingly seems all sealed, signed, and delivered, and a rogue backmarker will just appear, and yeah, that turns races on its head. But yeah, I mean, like we were saying, just faultless drive, just car where it needed to be. Positioning, what more can you say? It was faultless.
How dominant was Rose's victory today? Sarah Dove is just on the Conrad Straight.
That's crazy. That is absolutely insane.
Well, Sarah Dove will, in all likelihood, come across the line for GTWR in the 177 and take second place. It was a brilliant second place. It was a fought and sought after second place. Keep in mind, there was a point in this race where this car was running P5, I believe the 177 was, and they're going to get second today, and a brilliant one at that. Sarah Dove home in P2. Fox is going to come across the line in P3, and Rain, the Team Green 15, it's their turn to take the dub as they win the second class today in dominant fashion as well.
Yeah, so it's a first and second for the Team Green team. Oh my god, I'm not saying that ever again. First and second for them, so they, as a team, they've got to be very happy with that result. Young, absolutely brilliant drive to fight back from the little hiccups they had, and a fantastic drive from Rain to just stay out of trouble.
Well, the finishing order, as I don't think, as everybody's sort of, I don't know what if that was on purpose or not, but rather besides, your finishing order confirmed. Anor Rose wins over Dove and Fox in Pro. Rain, Young, and I believe O'Brien still finished third in the second class. What a crazy race it was today that saw a lot of the positions change hands, especially Dove, who drove up through the top five to get the second place position. But in the end, a familiar winner in pro and a nice win for Team Green in the second class, Nate.
Yeah, like I said, Rain kept the nose clean, got to where they needed to be, and Young, honestly, that was a fantastic drive back. That McLaren, sorry, that Mercedes was just so in tune with this racetrack here. I've never quite seen someone that dialed in to have a couple of mistakes, a couple of shakes, and just get straight back on it and roll up to who they were fighting and get past them.
All right. Well, we are going to do driver interviews. It's going to be an abbreviated driver interview. I'm going to ask every driver one question, one burning question that I've had in the back of my mind. Let's go with race winner in pro, Adel Rose. What is that? 6, 7, 8, 9, 9 wins in a row, Rose.
Yeah,
That's not a question, but a statement.
That's pretty good, isn't it?
It is nice. Tell us about your race.
Well, it was pretty uneventful. I didn't have to find anyone. I did have to avoid some cars. And that's about it, I guess. Yeah.
That's not good enough, Rose. I got to ask you another one. Were you out of sorts at any point in this race, or was it just completely clean sailing? Do you have any close calls?
Close call. Well, I think the first bark marker I lapped because they spawn out right in front of me. In that corner to the left when you start going downhill, the first one. And I think that was the only one, really. Yeah. Otherwise, yeah, smooth sailing.
9 wins in a row. You are currently the most dominant driver in RCI. How does that feel?
That's pretty nice. Yeah, indeed. So let's try to make that 10 next week.
That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Ladies and gentlemen, Adel Rose, your winner again. 9 in a row.
Thank you.
We will go to second place in the pro class. Sarah Dove finishes second, but definitely had to race hard for it today. You needed to come through the field, Sarah, and you did.
Yeah. I had a hard charge, I think.
Again, not good enough, Sarah. I got to ask you another question. Normally you think your sponsor. Anyway, get through it. I'm just kidding, folks. I'm just kidding. The thing for me, you probably didn't, to your own merit, have the best start of the start you wanted in the 177, but there was a lot of raceability in that car today, it seemed like.
Yeah, I for like, I don't know, maybe a year now, I've been having a problem where about an hour after I join a server for a race, ACC for like a minute or two will just like stutter like crazy and then stop, and then an hour later it'll do it again. So as the first lap started, I was getting stuttering and I had like frame drops and I couldn't really see where I was going. And when you're fighting for second place on the first lap, that's not great. So I kind of messed up my second corner, and then I got stuck a little bit and ended up further behind than I wanted. But then I think just in the second stint, I got, it's like I kind of got it down and gained back all the time that I'd lost. I'm not sure if Nicole had to fuel save or something, but I did in the last 20 minutes just to make sure that I could finish, because it was sort of like 50-50 whether I was actually going to finish the race.
Another week, another fight with Nicole Fox. You two, obviously, you have your history together, and it's very entertaining racing. I suppose we're going to see more of the two of you, the 177 and the 202, in 1 week's time as well.
I hope so. It was a good race.
Well, Sarah Duff, congratulations. A brilliant second place. It'll show that you started up there and you finished up there, but we know that it was a longer road than that. Excellent job.
Thank you.
And we finish up as per usual with the Cosmo report. Cosmo, tell us about, we know what happened to you today, but in your own words, tell us what happened today.
Been out of town, plain and simple. Just, you know, you take that end corner of the chase 20 times. Car reacts the same. Decide just to freak out once and bins my race, ruins it. So
Well, you pitted a second time, and that was unscheduled. Was that tire deg?
that second pit was to fix the 90 degrees of steering offset and 75 seconds damage I got by picking up by just completely, you know, losing out of the chase. So yeah, I'm frustrated, angry, annoyed at myself mostly. You know, just I should by rights. I mean, I'm not trying to detract from anyone on the grid. You know, everyone did a great job, but by rights, I probably should have been fifth overall, fourth in class, and threw it all away. You know, it's just really annoying as well because we have a hell of a lot of talent on the grid, and I would have really liked to have raced, you know, pushed everyone a bit harder, but just wasn't to be. You know.
Well, it was interesting to watch. Anyway, Cosmo made some excellent moves in that race, even though it didn't end up going in your favor today.
Yeah, I know. I mean, yeah, just yeah. Well, what else can I say? Really, I mean, just I'm gutted. Really, just really annoyed at myself, and just you know, if I can get myself together for Jumping Park, then maybe I'll finally manage to get something out of the season because it's been 3 races where could have done a hell of a lot better than I should have, but for whatever reason I haven't. So yeah, just you know, great, well done to everybody on doing as well as they did. You know, especially Sarah O'Brien. I want to give a particular mention to. You know, by right, she should probably be in pro. You know, that was an absolutely amazing job defending. You know, just that she did. She absolutely really made me work. You know, throughout that race, but yeah.
Well, post race, we're going to give Cosmo a pep talk so we can go to race 4 and hopefully park that NSX on the podium somewhere. Well, it was an interesting 90-minute race, right? That they voted they wanted to continue, and now I'm happy they did because it was very up and down. Not a lot of incidents involving multiple cars, and some very nice back and forth as well. Everything that makes Bathurst so very special. Folks, before we go tonight, just wanted to mention our great partners, racedepartment.com, your source of sim racing news and information, AK Informatica for providing our server solutions, Driver 61. You can get 25% off your driver coaching by going to driver61.com and using our discount code. Driver coaching can make you a better and faster sim racing driver. Fanatec.com, you can use our affiliate link when making purchases of quality sim racing hardware at fanatec.com. Doesn't cost you a thing to use, and it could help us with things like server cost in the future. And simracing.gp. Of course, if you cannot get enough racing and are tired of the pub racing scene, join simracing.gp, join a community, get started today. It is free to sign up. Nate, final thoughts on the 90-minute race here at the Mountain.
Well, it was definitely a little bit more action-packed than I thought it was. We had some fantastic battles. I'd say my highlight was watching Cosmo and O'Brien and Young fight one another. Driver of the day, probably Young, I would say, for the fight back that they had. Unluckiest driver, well, I suppose anyone who hit the wall, really, you'd have to say. But I'm looking forward to next week, Jesse.
Of course, we all are. Speaking of, we're not done with this week. It's just Wednesday, man. We got more racing left to do. Friday, the continuation of the Friday GT Sprint Challenge. On Saturday, round number 3 of the World Tour, the 8 hours of Laguna Seca. Qualifying did not go as planned for several of the big hitters. You will not believe who's on pole for that race. You're going to want to set a reminder for Saturday, the 8 hours of Laguna Seca for the World Tour. And of course, on Monday, the continuation of the Challenge Cup, the Lamborghini ST, the Ferrari Challenge Car, and the new Porsche Cup, the 992, all racing on the same track at the same time. Race number 1 was as chaotic as you might expect, but not for the reasons you might expect. Excellent, good, hard racing between all of the classes at Spa. week 2 with Ryan Gill, Ryan Mawson, and John Dalton for you on that. And of course, Nate, myself, and Mr. Boswell will be right back here for round 4 of the Diamond Drive Cup. But next Thursday, not this Thursday, next Thursday, you still have a week to sign up for the BMW Cup, the 4th car out of the 5 from the new Challenger DLC. The BMW touring car is in its own series on Thursday. It starts the 14th. You still have about 6 days to sign up and pre-queue for that series, and it's going to be ecstatic. Touring car action in RCI. Sign me up, please. And of course, that all to come in the future. Folks, on behalf of everybody here at RCI, the staff, the stewards, and the broadcast team, we thank you for watching and have a good night.